Madam President, I just wanted to say a few words on an issue that is of deep concern to many Americans. In 2001, 2006, and in 2011, I voted against the Usa Patriot Act. I voted against that legislation because I believe that in a democratic and constitutional form of government that we can effectively combat terrorism without sacrificing the civil liberties and the constitutional protections which make us a free country. The President has said that he welcomes a debate on this issue, and I agree with him. There should be a debate, and the debate should center on whether the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution is still relevant. If it is, let's abide by it. If it isn't, let us not be hypocrites, and let us acknowledge that we live in a society, in a nation, in which our freedom and liberty have been severely compromised. But let us not pretend that the protections that the Fourth Amendment guarantees exist when, in fact, they do not exist. Here is what the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution states, and I quote, "The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized." End of quote. That is the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Now let us talk about what we learned in the last week about the National Security Agency's activities. We learned that it is likely that virtually every phone call made by every American is being collected and stored by the United States government. The time that you made that phone call, where you made that phone call, how long you were on the phone, and to whom you made that phone call is now part of the record of the United States government. Every husband calling a wife, every businessman making a deal, every elected official talking to a constituent, every candidate talking to a campaign manager, every doctor talking to a patient, every lawyer talking to a client, every journalist tracking a story. All of that information and more is now on file with the United States government. What is even more alarming is that it is not just the government officials who have access to that information. It turns out that it is private contractors like Booz Allen and, I assume, many other contractors. A few weeks ago, Madam President, you'll recall that there was a huge uproar in the media, including front-page stories that the Obama administration was tracking the phone calls made by reporters from the Associated Press. Big deal. Everybody was really concerned about that. While not listening to the calls, they learned who the reporters were speaking to, how long they were speaking, and where the reporters were located. Well, guess what? It turns out that what the Obama administration was doing to the AP is nothing unusual. This appears to be exactly what the government has the capability to do to every single American. Furthermore, we have also recently learned that the government has the capability to monitor every website that we visit, every video that we see, and every item that we search for online. Madam President, everybody understands that terrorism is a serious issue and that the United States government and governments throughout the world must do everything that we can to protect our people. We do not want another 9/11. We do not want another bombing like the Boston Marathon. We do, however, want our government, intelligence agencies, and law enforcement authorities to be strong and effective in combating terrorism. But, Madam President, it is my very strong opinion that we can do that without living in an Orwellian world where the government and private corporations know every telephone call that we make, every website that we visit, every place that we go. Is that really the country that we want to be. And let us be clear, the technology for monitoring every aspect of our daily lives will only increase in years to come as that technology becomes ever more sophisticated. Madam President, opposition to the current NSA policy is coming from across the political spectrum. Representative Jim Sensenbrenner, a conservative Republican from Wisconsin and one of the authors of the original Patriot Act, said in a Thursday letter to Attorney General Eric Holder that he is, quote, extremely troubled, end quote, by the National Security Agency's seizure of the phone records of millions of Verizon customers through a secret court ruling. He also said, and I quote, this is Jim Sensenbrenner, I do not believe the released FISA order is consistent with the requirements of the Patriot Act. How could the phone records of so many innocent Americans be relevant to an authorized investigation as required by the Act? Seizing phone records of millions of innocent people is excessive and un-American, is what Republican Congressman Jim Sensenbrenner said in a press release that accompanied his letter to the Attorney General. Madam President, it is clear to me that the United States Congress has got to take a very hard look at the USA Patriot Act and specifically Act Section 215. Bottom line is we must be strong and effective in combating terrorism. But it is absolutely my view that we can do that without undermining the constitutional rights that make us a free country. And with that, Madam President, I would yield the floor.